Hello, everyone. I'm Atika, a PhD candidate from Texas. I study at the University of North Texas. Thank you for joining us for this workshop, and we are really excited to hear ideas for being exchanged and the proposal feedback being provided. So I want to start with introducing the GSA team for webinar coordination. Paulina is our GSA president, and she is one of the most hardworking people I ever know. And I can see you. Oh, and is our designer, and most of our flyers are made by her. She's amazing. Aneta, you all know her, right? And she was our moderator last time, so she set a high bar for me today. Aneta, would you like to wave hand one more time? Yes, thank you. And Rebecca Clark, she is another team member, have been helping and supporting a lot, thank you. So next, we have a great, amazing team here trying to come up with ideas and suggestions to prepare webinars, workshops for graduate students mostly. So I truly appreciate the team, and I feel really lucky to be part of such a hard working team and creative team. And I love the workshops, and that was one of the initiations started with this group. So next I want to move on to the panelists. We have 9 or 10 AECT leaders are here to help and support us with this workshop. We are going to be in breakout rooms, so we need experts support and guidance to make sure we are helping you and supporting you with polishing your proposals for AECT convention for 2021. So I would like to start with Dr. Tonia Dousay. She is the co-planner of AECT 2021. So you guys are lucky. You have access to the #2 person with convention, and you're getting feedback from her. And she is going to have a 10-minute presentation before we move on to the breakout rooms to explain us how to decide on what division we are going to, what division is the one fitting to our proposal. So it's the time, we don't lose time by waiting for other divisions to decide if they would like to refer our proposal to another division. And next, Dr. Larisa Olesova, DDL president. Hello, Dr. Olesova, and Dr. Benjamin Emihovich from DELT. Hello, Dr. Emihovich. Ms. Jennifer Bauman from OTP. Dr. Heather Leary, RTD. Dr. Bruce, Mr. Bruce, Dr. Bruce, hope, soon to be.
Soon to be, but still Mr. Yeah.
Yeah. That's fine. You are on the path, sir. Dr. Ayesha Sadaf from DDL. Dr. Barbara Hall, DDL Award Manager. And Dr. Meina, she is one of the proposal awardees. So we have a great team here to help us, support us, to make sure we are getting a proposal that is going to outstand, among others, right? So, Dr. Dousay, floor is yours. If you can please go ahead and start with your presentation.
Thank you so much, Atika, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I want to put a quick link in the chat box for you. Here is a link to the slides that I'll be using to kick us off in this first conversation about how do I choose which division or affiliate to submit my proposal to. So I'm going to go ahead and go into screen share for this and get us flipped over into my slides. So at the very top, you can see the URL again. Please feel free to share this with your classmates, your colleagues, your friends, your faculty even, because this is intended to last beyond just AECT 21. As a reminder, we are planning a hybrid event this November. Our convention planning committee meets monthly to go over our activities and the questions that are facing us through this process. But I first want to call your attention to exploring our different units. So the link here on the screen is going to take you to our AECT convention website. And if you scroll down to the bottom of this page, there's a section where you can explore our divisions, our SIGs, and our affiliates, if my connection will keep up with us and let me actually get into that section. But as we know, technology doesn't always work out the way we want when we want. So I'll hop back up here and click on Culture, Learning, and Theory and see if I can get that one to open. And strike 2 for Dr. D on this Friday. Okay, what should be happening here, and I'll annotate on screen for you, on this side of the screen, it would open up and give you the individual call for proposals from each of our divisions, as you can see, from Culture, Learning, and Theory all the way down to Technology, Integrated Learning. And you've got planners from these divisions here today to help you with some of your questions. If I click on Affiliates and SIGs, I should get another drop down. Hey, look at that. There's Culture, Learning, and Theory finally. Huzzah, and welcome to rural internet in northern Idaho. So now you can see on screen that there is a listing of what CLT has submitted and what they're looking for. And there's even contact here for Christy to get to Dr. Liu and ask questions about what CLT is looking for. So this is your first place to take a look at each of the divisions and SIGs and what it is they're looking for. But let's go back into my 3 handy questions to ask when you're drafting your proposal. What's your context? What's the impact? And what's your goal? Those 3 questions and your answers are going to generate possibilities and then help you refine and narrow down to where you want to be. So let's take a quick journey through an example. So here's an example project that I was writing up a few years ago. It was a project conducted here at the University of Idaho in the College of Education. It was a joint listed course with undergraduate and graduate students. It was offered online specifically by design. It was titled Curriculum Development for Diverse Learners. Students were learning how to design an OER lesson using an OER lesson itself from our AECT friends at Designers for Learning. And this was a service learning project. So the activities and lessons that our students were going to design as open education resources were for a client based in Togo, Northern Africa, if you're not familiar with that particular country. So based on my context, well, maybe culture, learning, and theory, maybe distance learning, maybe teacher ed, because I'm in a college of education, could be design and development, because certainly we're looking at the instructional design process and designing OER lessons. And I'm dealing with a service learning partner in Africa, and I'm having an impact on the northern part of the continent. So maybe eLearning Africa is appropriate for this project. That doesn't really help me, does it? I got a lot of possibilities. So let's take a closer look at what's the impact of this project. Well, we were looking specifically at the use of design personas and empathy. And we were looking at how to work through cultural misperceptions in some cases. And there was a challenge with plagiarism and understanding OER in this class. So that arose as a significant impact. And most importantly, back to that experiencing the ID process. So now we see that my impact isn't so much focused on our service learning client. So that takes eLearning Africa out of the mix. And if I go back to my other slide, that also means that I took DDL out of the mix because I'm not as focused on the distance learning aspect of the project. I'm focused on the cultural implications. I'm focused on the ID process, and I'm still working with teacher educators in particular. So that makes TED still relevant for what I'm doing. And in fact, that was a key design component, was that this course was for pre-service teachers and in-service teachers. So what's my goal? Well, there you go. My final goal was to help other teacher educators find value in design personas and helping pre-service teachers with culturally responsive pedagogy and curricular design. Yes, I could have still chosen CLT as an appropriate division, but since I really am trying to reach the teacher ed audience, I wanted to target that division. So that's my very simple example of how you can go through and ask those same questions of yourself. But as a reminder, Dr. Alikar Shalman and I are both here for you. We are happy to accept questions. The link at the bottom of slide 7 will take you to the entire planning committee. so you can reach out directly to whichever division or affiliate is that you're trying to contact. Questions about selecting a division? Anybody want to pitch a quick project and we do it one more time?
I can share.
Go ahead.
So I am working on something that I'm trying to, do you want me to give which divisions I'm thinking of, or just let that be a mystery and let everyone else predict?
Let the divisions be a mystery.
Okay. So this is it's a practice paper. It's on selection-based assessment design for higher ed faculty, but not within the College of Education. We don't work with that specific college. So College of Health Sciences, Colleges of Business, Colleges of Science and Math. And it's going to be an iterative design process. So we're going to offer kind of a synchronous session for them to kind of work on these selection-based assessments. Then we're going to take that synchronous session and repackage it as an asynchronous module in our online faculty development program. And then we're going to take that asynchronous module and we're going to repackage it one more time as a job aid.
I have my answers, but what are we feeling in the audience amongst the panelists? Drop them in the chat. I totally feel some D&D vibe. I feel some DDL vibe. Yeah, lots of love for D&D.
I was trying to decide myself between D&D and OTP. So this is really helpful.
Question from Dr. Hall. So I heard synchronous and then repackaged for asynchronous and then repackaged for job aid. That was why I was thinking DDL.
Sorry, I was trying to type in the chat. It's probably just easier if I unmute. So the training is ending up specifically online because of remote modalities. For the professors that we are working with selection-based assessment, they do not just teach primarily online, and we're not just talking about online assessment design, although that is one of our topics that we will cover because of remote proctoring problems. But I can't limit it completely to distance learning because the assessments are completely distance learning assessments. And if we were not in remote modalities, we would have done the synchronous training as a face-to-face session, not a Zoom session.
I'm heavily feeling D&D. What do we think? Thumbs up from the audience? Use your reactions. Jenny's saying give it to OTP. She is biased, but she's also got an inside track on that one. So this is where I'll also note that looking at the individual unit calls on the AECT website, that first page that did not want to work for me properly, that's going to give you hints of things to make sure you include or state. Some divisions want you to identify the type of proposal you're submitting. So look for that language and make sure you include that line somewhere in that long abstract that you're submitting. So that's why determining which unit you're submitting to is important, because each one might want to see something slightly different, and you don't want to get dinged for not including whatever that key thing was. Well, I think we can head into our breakout, Satika.
Okay, so if there's no more questions, the breakout rooms are already assigned. I'll go ahead and start it. We have some participants who signed up, didn't show up, so we might move few groups around, and the groups are assigned according to where you are at with your proposal. So the group pink one is a discussion group, the people who are going to discuss ideas and exchange ideas. Group twos, they are color-coded, but all group twos are work in progress, and all group threes are ready for review. So facilitators already have that information, and I'm going to start the breakout rooms, and I will check in on you guys. And if you're not assigned to a room, I'll check your information and assign you.
Perfect. So we have one question from attendees. Is there a requirement for the number of articles being reviewed and an increase in the likelihood of being accepted? A requirement for the number of articles being reviewed. Can somebody clarify? Am I not getting this one?
It sounds like the number of references, maybe?
Like an expectation of number of resources?
Whoever it is, you can unmute yourself and ask your question if you are the one put the question. Okay.
So I can tackle the likelihood of being accepted. It's just going to be the quality of your proposal. It's not going to, there's no quotas, there's no check boxes, we're not counting. So maybe that helps.
Tonia, isn't there a limit on the accepted proposals for the conference?
How many we can accept?
Yeah.
We will have programming hours, and each unit will be giving programming hours, but our limit is more flexible since we do have the hybrid virtual options.
Yeah. No, like in the past, they were like, okay, you cannot have more than 3 presentations, you know, something like that.
Yes, that's what I think the question's getting at.
Ah,
Yeah, right. So how many
There
they
we
can
go.
present? And I think like they were asking how many they can submit for review. So I think for review, you can submit as many as you want. There's no limit.
yes.
But I think like
Yes.
there will be only 3 or 4. I don't know what the current number
We've
is.
never had an actual policy. It's fluctuated from year to year. It's more or less the will of the planning committee. At this point, general consensus is around we don't want to have folks who are the first presenter on 3 or more presentations. However, it is simply unavoidable for faculty to not be listed as a second author, depending on the culture of their institution. I mean, I know our colleagues at some universities have advising loads of 30 doc students. So you're going to be on 5 or 6 or 7 presentations. So we're not going to be looking to knock people down or say you can't present. We will do an analysis on the back end to see if maybe somebody's got 50 presentations. I really don't think they will, but we'll look for any anomalies or outliers, and if necessary, work individually with authors.
So Tonia, there was a question that Anne put in the chat, but this came up in our breakout room, handling figures or tables.
There's so many ways to go about this. I honestly get so frustrated as a reviewer when I'm reading it and it's clear that the person had some sort of figure or table in mind, but there's nothing there for me to work with. My recommendation is to take advantage of Imgur or Google Drive or OneDrive and include a short link to the picture or table with no other information, but where you would say figure 2. And there's a URL below it, and that URL takes me to a Google Drive picture. That would be perfect as a reviewer to be able to evaluate your proposal. Probably one of the best ways you can get around our very limited submission form. Thank you for that, Anne, and for bringing it up, Heather. I just see, before I come back to the chat, there's another question about a small volume of literature review study. That's actually a great question. Atika, what do you think? Do we accept systematic literature reviews for presentation?
Yes.
And I'm only teasing Atika because that is the type of submission that she is working on. We actually pulled up a proceedings from last year of a systematic literature review that was presented. So I do recommend you check out some of our proceedings. I will grab that link for folks and put it in the chat box.
I'm putting
Thank
that.
you. Thank you. And you'll see the variety of presentations that have been out there. I'll also note that one of the things we talked about in our breakout, the presenter's email address is at the top of every proceedings paper. So if it's the type of session that you would like to present, contact the author and see if they're willing to share their AECT proposal with you. Because the proposal and the finished proceedings file are going to look very different. Okay, back up to Rita's question.
Okay, asking for.
I think that's the call for how to, what is it? The instruction how to volunteer to be a reviewer. That's what I believe. And then we've been sharing it throughout several social media platforms or groups.
I'm looking for the link for that. I can go ahead and put link for that infographic that you can refer to how to sign up to be a reviewer for AECT.
And on the other half of that, we don't actually give you feedback on how you reviewed. However, this is something that I want to encourage you if you are a graduate student in the audience, and this is being recorded, to share out. Talk to your faculty about co-reviewing with them. One of the things that I have been doing for years, I oversee a STEM education research group here at the University of Idaho. I've got doc students, master students, and even an undergrad this year from literally across campus. And I'll sign up to review. I'll probably get six submissions to review if I had to guess. One of our regularly scheduled meetings will be me pulling up these submissions and going through them with my grad students and my master students and asking for their feedback, and we will co-review together. And we talk through why we give certain feedback. So since AECT is not able to give you that type of feedback, please talk to your faculty or identify another mentor in AECT who might be willing to do this with you. And I dare say, as all of my colleagues on the screen are nodding their heads, yeah, we do this all the time. We can put one more student in the crew.
Okay. Looks like there is no more questions. Okay, we got one. Is there another review process for papers included in the proceedings? Page limit.
That's a fantastic question, Anne. So what's going to happen is we get closer to convention, all accepted authors will be contacted by Dr. Mike Simonson, who is the coordinator of AECT convention proceedings, with instructions on how to take your proposal, your submission, and turn it into the proceedings paper with the instructions for the word count, the page limit, and how to submit the files to him.
So if anyone else has any questions, you can go ahead and unmute yourself to ask your question. We are about to be done. So thank you for joining us. I hope this was productive and it helped you with getting a better idea about your proposal. It helped me personally. And I'm going to polish my proposal, actually structure it. It was all, I just put everything there. I need to restructure my proposal. So I hope you got a good feedback, good conversation. And so we are looking forward to see you all at our next workshop, webinar, whatever we decide on. And we are open to ideas, suggestions. Feel free to email me. You all have my email if you have any ideas, any suggestions. And I truly appreciate the AECT leaders, Dr. Dousay, all other panelists who were here to help us and support us. This Friday afternoon, I know Fridays are hard, but this is the time we get most participation. So I truly appreciate your attendance and being with us here.